Before there was a pharmacy on every corner, a doctor visit cost a working family a week's wages. During the Depression and through the 1950s, grandmothers were the doctors. They had no degrees and no waiting rooms. They had the kitchen, the garden, and generations of inherited knowledge that modern science has since quietly confirmed was right all along. This is what they knew that we forgot. Kerosene sat on the kitchen shelf right next to the sugar bowl, a fixture in Depression-era homes from Appalachia to the Ozarks. When winter coughs came, a grandmother's hand would reach for both. A few drops of kerosene, often called coal oil, dripped onto a sugar cube, then pressed into a child's palm. This was not a trick or a dare. It was medicine, born of scarcity and trust in what little was available. Oral histories from mountain families recall the ritual: a lamp burning on the table, the sharp scent of oil, the taste of sweetness and danger. In those days, a doctor's visit could mean skipping meals for a week, so grandmothers weighed the risks and gave what they had. Modern toxicology paints a stark picture. Even a small amount of kerosene, if inhaled or swallowed wrong, can inflame the lungs, chemical pneumonitis, a silent threat. The American Academy of Pediatrics warns that just a teaspoon can land a child in the hospital. Yet in those kitchens, success stories outnumbered tragedies, at least in memory. The gamble was real, but so was the desperation. Grandmothers weren't reckless, they were resourceful, making choices in a world where choices were few. Another remedy, the mustard plaster, brought its own drama. Flour, dry mustard and water mixed into a paste, spread between cloth, then pressed to the chest. The first tingling signaled the start of the healing. Within minutes, skin flushed bright red as blood rushed to the surface, drawing heat and congestion out. Trained nurses once used the same method in hospitals, timing the application to prevent burns. The science behind it, to counter irritation, relies on a compound called allyl isothiocyanate, which triggers the body's nerves and opens blood vessels. Too long, and the cure could blister just right, and it loosened stubborn phlegm. For families who couldn't pay for penicillin, this was frontline medicine. These risky fixes were never taken lightly. They were acts of calculation and care shaped by poverty and the stubborn will to keep children well. Today, we see the dangers more clearly, but the ingenuity behind these remedies still commands respect. Grandmothers made do with what they had, and sometimes what they had was almost enough. As we move from the perilous to the proven, the story turns to safer wisdom. Remedies that modern science now admits were more than old wives' tales. Which ones do you remember from your own family? And does mustard plaster deserve more love than castor oil? A glass jar, a raw onion, and a drizzle of honey. These were the makings of medicine in kitchens where money was tight but wisdom ran deep. Grandmothers sliced onions thin and layered them with honey, letting the mixture sit until syrup formed. At bedtime, a spoonful went to the child with a stubborn cough. The taste was sharp and sweet, a promise that the night might bring relief. For decades, this syrup was dismissed as old wives' lore, a comfort with no real power. In 2012, researchers at Penn State put honey to the test. In a randomized trial, children with nighttime coughs received either honey, dextromethorphan, or no treatment. The honey group slept better and coughed less, outperforming over-the-counter medicine. Later, a Cochrane review echoed these findings. Honey consistently eased coughs and soothed throats, with fewer side effects than pharmacy syrups. The science traced honey's effect to its dense sugars and natural enzymes, which draw moisture from inflamed tissues and slow the growth of bacteria. What grandmothers learned by trial and error, the laboratory now measures in data points and symptom scores. Chicken soup simmered on the stove was more than a meal. It was a frontline defense against fever and congestion. Recipes varied, but every pot began with bones, vegetables, and thyme. Generations swore by its power to clear the head and settle the chest, even as doctors rolled their eyes. Then, in the late 1990s, Dr. Stephen Rennard at the University of Nebraska Medical Center decided to study his wife's family recipe. In his lab, he tested how chicken soup affected neutrophils, the white blood cells that fuel inflammation during colds. The results surprised even the skeptics. Soup slowed the movement of these cells by up to 50%, suggesting a real anti-inflammatory effect. The humble broth, it turned out, could help the body heal itself, not just offer comfort. These remedies, born of hardship and handed down with care, have earned their place in both memory and medicine. When science finally caught up, it found that grandmothers were not just keeping families fed, they were keeping them well, with tools that wellness culture would one day repackage and sell back to the world. In the kitchen, with nothing but what the land and pantry could provide, they practiced a kind of medicine that was, in many cases, biologically correct before the textbooks caught on. Castor oil once claimed a spot in nearly every home, its thick, bitter taste a childhood memory for many. When stomachs cramped or coughs refused to fade, families reached for the bottle, trusting its swift results. Ricinoleic acid, castor oil's active ingredient, triggers nerves in the gut, setting off contractions that bring relief, sometimes with uncomfortable speed. Before pharmacies lined every street, this was a remedy that worked fast and reliable. Yet not every use was grounded in science. Some believed rubbing castor oil onto sore joints or congested chests could draw out pain or clear airways, while laboratory studies show ricinoleic acid can reduce inflammation. The skin's barrier blocks much of its effect. The comfort, though, often came from the ritual itself: warm oil, gentle hands, and the quiet reassurance of care. Clinicians today warn against giving castor oil to children under 12, citing risks of dehydration and severe cramping. What was once a household staple now carries a warning, but its reputation for effectiveness endures in families who remember when options were few. Epsom salts waited in the bathroom cabinet, ready to be poured into steaming baths after long days. Generations believed magnesium from the salt seeped through the skin, relaxing muscles and washing away aches. The sensation was unmistakable: heat, buoyancy, and a slow release of tension. Yet when scientists measured magnesium absorption during soaks, the evidence proved thin. Most studies suggest Epsom salts soothe not through chemistry, but through the simple physics of heat and water. Warmth increases blood flow, eases muscle tension, and gives the body a chance to recover. For those without access to doctors or expensive ointments, a hot bath was medicine enough. Some clinicians still recommend Epsom salt baths for minor aches, reminding patients that healing often comes from rest, warmth, and faith in familiar rituals. Between castor oil and Epsom salts, home remedies range from pharmacologically potent to quietly comforting. Grandmothers balance tradition and necessity, blurring the line between medicine and comfort. Apple cider vinegar, sharp and golden, has long stood on pantry shelves, poured into water as a daily tonic or dabbed on stings. Its main ingredient, acetic acid, lowers acidity to about 2.4, enough to make bacteria pause. Some families swore by a teaspoon in water for digestion, others for sore throats or minor wounds. Modern studies show diluted vinegar can slow certain microbes, but claims of digestive miracles remain unproven. Dentists warn that frequent sipping can erode tooth enamel, and pediatricians caution against undiluted vinegar for children, as it can irritate delicate mouths and throats. Still, the ritual persists, now dressed up as wellness, but rooted in old wisdom. Saltwater gargles require only salt and warm water, 1 to 2 teaspoons per 8 ounces of water, swished at the first sign of a sore throat. The saline solution draws fluid from swollen tissues by osmosis, easing pain and helping wash away germs. This remedy still finds a place in clinics, especially for adults. Pediatricians warn that children under 10 risk choking, so caution is advised. For everyone else, relief is as real now as when doctor visits were rare. Beyond these, the home medicine chest offered quick answers: baking soda paste for itchy skin, lemon juice for sore throats, olive oil for dry elbows, oatmeal baths for chicken pox rashes, hot tea with lemon for stuffy heads. Calamine lotion soothed bug bites, while moonshine or whiskey became cough syrup. Sardine grease eased cracked hands, and yellow root made a bitter tonic. Scorched flour dusted chicken pox sores. Sugar water calmed coughs, and catnip tea soothed colicky babies. Paregoric, once common for coughs, is now off limits because it contained opium. Sassafras tea, asafoetida bags, turpentine rubs, and lard poultices filled out the list, each with its own believers. These remedies, passed down through generations, made the kitchen a place of healing as much as hunger. Today, Many lab-tested cures echo what grandmothers proved with kitchen and grit. Science now confirms remedies once dismissed as superstition. And this reminds us wisdom is not always found in textbooks. Which remedy lives on in your family? Does mustard plaster finally get more love than castor oil? Share your memories below.